power is never shared. It is either taken or given up. History tells us a harsh truth. Those who wait for permission are eaten by those who act. Because it's hazardous, upsetting, and sharp enough to cut through the comfy lies of morality. No one tells you this truth in school. But if you look closely at the world around you, you'll see that the ruthless grow while the timid stay stuck by invisible chains of fear, approval, and expectation. You might not want to hear this, but the people who are against you and the things that get in your way are not your worst enemies. The thought that other people can hold you back, break you, or stop you is your biggest opponent. Society has put this idea in your head, nourished it, and reinforced it since you first learned to speak. And if you don't get rid of it, it will poison every goal you have. Here is the contradiction that few people are brave enough to face. You become unstoppable when you stop worrying about what other people think of you. But as soon as you want acceptance or are afraid of being turned down, you become a puppet. Everyone you discreetly ask for approval pulls your strings. Is it worse to be ruled by one tyrant or to be enslaved by millions of unseen ones? This is why Machiavelli still makes so many people uneasy, even after 500 years. His statements are dangerous because they take away the soothing lies of morality and show something scary. People are selfish, power is cruel, and loyalty is weak. But there is a freeing lesson hidden in that harshness. If no one can be trusted and looks matter more than honesty, then the individual who knows this fact cannot be hurt by betrayal. They can't be stopped by being turned down. Others can't stop them from doing what they want. Give it some thought. Have you ever noticed that the most powerful and feared people in history, including monarchs, generals, and leaders, frequently had to deal with constant opposition, but still got what they wanted? Did they have freedom because they had help? No, they were free because they didn't need anyone else's permission to live, act, or rule. They learned the most important lesson about power. The handcuffs you feel on your wrists were never real. They were made up. And since they were made up, they can be broken. But here's the difficult question. If you can be free and strong, why are so many people still weak, begging, and dependent? Why do people believe that other people can hold them back? Why do they give up their will to fit in with others, afraid of being made fun of more than dying? Maybe you felt the tightening in your chest when someone says no to you. You could be afraid that they were correct to do so, and that you are lesser than you imagined. Why does this wound that can't be seen hurt more than physical pain? So, the big question is, who really has control over your life? You, or the many people you don't know whose opinions you bear like a heavy cross? What if every time you blamed someone else for something that went wrong, you were actually giving up? What if you were the one stopping yourself all along, not the world? The reality is hard to deal with. The truth is hard to take, but it also gives you freedom. Because you can't play the victim anymore once you face it. You can't act like your chains can't be broken anymore once you face it. And as that illusion falls apart, you will either get up with a horrifying new strength or fall apart. Beneath the awful weight of freedom, what will you pick? To live in fear of being judged, mocked, or betrayed by others? or to accept the more difficult and grim fact that no one can stop you, break you, or keep you back until you let them? The lesson is risky. You have to get rid of all the soothing lies you've been given about kindness, fairness, and the goodwill of others. It means looking into the void that Machiavelli himself once looked into. A world where allegiance is a mask, morality is a costume, and the only real power is the strength of your own will. We start here, not with comfort or hope, but with a harsh warning. If you keep believing the falsehoods of weakness, you will be trapped, enslaved, and broken. But if you have the courage to confront the truth, a whole new world will open up for you. The first step to perceiving that world is to find out where this weakness comes from, why you think other people can control you, and how this idea has been deeply ingrained in your mind. To get this, we need to go into the psychological and philosophical roots of your hidden bonds. Why do you feel the chains that you can't see? Why do you automatically feel small when someone doesn't like you? Doubt yourself when someone criticizes you, or want applause like it's air? The answer is more than just a habit. It is due to the way your mind has been shaped, molded, and conditioned, not just by parents and instructors, but by thousands of years of shared fear. Carl Jung once said, "The scariest thing is to fully accept yourself." Why is it scary? You are completely alone the instant you stop looking for approval from other people. By yourself using your own judgment. By yourself with your own truth. And that loneliness and total independence is too much for most individuals to handle. So they choose the easy path. They give over their will to the group, the throng, or the tribe. The chains you feel are only the weight of fitting in weighing down your soul. Friedrich Nietzsche identified the same problem in society and labeled it slave morality. People don't make their own values. Instead, they hide behind borrowed ones like obedience, humility, and self-denial. Why? Because it's safer. Because it's not safe to stand on your own. Nietzsche understood that the herd despises the individual who refuses to conform. So they gossip about him, make fun of him, and send him away. Not with swords, but with shame. Shame is what makes your chains strong. And then there's Machiavelli, the person who scares moralists. While Jung talked about the shadow within and Nietzsche talked about the poison of the herd, Machiavelli took the mask off of politics and human conduct. His message was clear. Mankind are ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, and covetous. If you trust them without question, you will be ruined. If you trust them, they will betray you. You will die waiting for their approval. Machiavelli's brilliance lay not in cruelty for its own sake, but in the revelation of human nature. He understood that if you base your identity on what other people think, you will always be at their mercy. But why is this weakness so strong? Neuroscience gives us a hint. The brain is programmed to survive by feeling like it belongs. If you were kicked out of the tribe thousands of years ago, you would die since you wouldn't have food, protection, or a way to live. This primeval fear is present in your nervous system. That's why speaking in front of a lot of people feels like being shot at. That's why being made fun of can hurt more than being hurt physically. Your body thinks that being rejected socially is the same as being in danger of death. And thus, even in today's environment, where tribal acceptability is no longer necessary for survival. Your biology still makes you obey. This is the problem that no one sees. You're not just fighting society and culture. You're also fighting your own DNA. The desire to gain favor and the fear of rejection are age-old. To get over it, you have to fight not only against the mob, but also against the instincts that are hardwired into your body. This is why so few people ever make it. They may feel their chains, but when the tribe threatens to make fun of them or be quiet, they immediately obey again. They give in. They get down on their knees. They agree. But isn't there something odd about this? If the fear of rejection is so strong, how come certain people, those who change history, don't appear to be affected? Did Caesar, Napoleon, or even Machiavelli himself come into the world without this fear? Or did they face it head-on and realize that the pain of criticism isn't death, even though it feels like it? What if the fear of being rejected is the biggest lie of all? The last trick that holds you in chains? Jung would say that most individuals never bring together their shadow, which is the evil, greedy, power-hungry part of oneself that wants to be free. Instead, they push it down and hold on to borrowed morals. Nietzsche would say that they love the group and hate the person. Machiavelli would say they are foolish, like sheep waiting for wolves. All three come to the same conclusion. If you don't want to face the harder truths about yourself and others, you will always be governed and never free. But you should ask yourself, what does this obedience cost? What do you lose if you keep living as if other people had the key to your worth? Not just chances, not simply respect. You lose who you are. You live like a puppet, an echo, or a reflection. And in the end, what will you see when you die? A life that was yours, or one that you borrowed from what other people wanted you to do? This is why Machiavelli's teachings are important. They pierce to the heart of your slavery. He is not asking you to be mean. He wants you to understand plainly that men betray, that loyalty is weak, and that looks matter more than truth. If you agree with this, you don't need their permission anymore. If you don't believe it, you stay stuck in an illusion. So, the real problem isn't that other people are too strong. The problem is that you're continually giving them your authority because you are afraid of being alone, being made fun of, or being judged. And you will never be free until you face its root, biological, psychological, or philosophical. But what happens if you don't? What will happen if you keep thinking that other people can stop you? You don't know how bad the repercussions are. And once you see them, you'll never see your life or the world the same way again. The chains you accept don't just hold you back. They also change the way you think. A quiet change happens every time you give up to the idea that other people can stop you. You get smaller, your goals get smaller, your voice gets quieter, and your willpower gets weaker. You might not notice it right away. It happens slowly, like rust eating away at iron. But one day you look in the mirror and see a version of yourself that is careful, shy, and empty. The first effect is that your identity will start to go. When you're afraid of being turned down, who are you really? When you avoid risks, keep your thoughts to yourself, and water down your wants only to fit in, you turn into a shadow, not a person. And the shadow can't make demands, can't claim respect or can't claim destiny. Psychologists refer to this phenomenon as learned helplessness, a state when continuous surrender to external influences leads one to believe that resistance is ineffectual, despite the potential for freedom. You've seen this before. The guy who never applies for the job because he thinks the employer won't pick him. The woman who doesn't speak up because she thinks the group won't listen. The dreamer who gives up on his dreams because he thinks the world would laugh. The problem was never real in any of these cases. It was thought about, and the ghostly voice of "they won't let you" made it stronger. But the effects are more serious. Your brain changes when you live in this false world for long enough. Neuroscience has demonstrated that patterns of fear and submission establish brain circuits that persist. The more you give in, the easier it is to give in again. It won't be a decision for long. It's what makes you you. You have taught yourself to be governed and to bow down to shadows. And the world, predators, manipulators, and even well-meaning authority sees this weakness and takes advantage of it. Machiavelli grasped this with great clarity. He said that a leader should learn to be both a fox and a lion, the fox to spot traps, and the lion to scare off wolves. What happens, though, if you aren't either? When you are a sheep, you become a target, and prey isn't killed all at once. Slowly, piece by piece, the prey is eaten until there is nothing left. That's what life does to those who give up their authority to other people's opinions. And here's the worst thing that may happen. You start to hate the people you gave up to. You do what they say, want their approval, and take their criticism. But deep down, rage is growing. You feel like you've been tricked, controlled, and made smaller. But you don't have the guts to fight back, so the fury builds up inside you. It eats away at you from the inside. Submission is a breeding ground for depression, resentment, and envy. You become a prisoner who wants to be free, but is afraid of the open gate. Culture makes this captivity worse. You are taught from birth that being obedient keeps you safe, being humble earns you respect, and being patient gets you what you want. But what if none of that is real? What if the obedient die without anybody knowing? The humble are stepped on, and the patient are forgotten? You have been taught that waiting, serving, and following the rules will one day set you free. But the years go by, and the reward never comes. And by the time you find out the truth, the best years of your life have already been spent in shackles. This isn't just a personal tragedy. It is a societal issue. This spell affects entire groups of people, countries with people who kowtow, who don't speak up, and who never dare to fight back. Not because the rulers are strong, but because the ruled are weak. Societies are dominated. Obedience, not tyranny, keeps oppression going. And the oppressor's power is an illusion that keeps people obedient. In reality, they give it to him willingly. Think about how many times you stopped before you even started, because you thought someone would stop you. How many dreams have you given up on, not because the world told you to, but because you told yourself to? How much of your life is missing, not taken, not destroyed, but given up quietly, freely, and sadly? The truth is harsh. The biggest prison ever created doesn't have any bars, locks, or guards. Fear makes up its walls. Shame makes up its locks. And what will they think makes up its guards. And most people, even those who know they're in prison, never get out. They make their prisons more comfortable by adding minor things. They term their chains virtues, and they wait for someone else to set them free. It never is. This is why the effects that aren't noticed are so bad. You don't just miss out on chances. You lose who you are. You don't just give up your power. You give up your life to what other people think. And once you see this clearly, a scary question comes to mind. If fear of what others think has dictated your whole life, have you ever really lived? The realization is hard to take, but it is also the first step toward freedom. You can't pretend the chains are impenetrable anymore once you realize the prison for what it is. You start to feel like you might rebel, and revolt is the only way to get free, even though it is perilous and costs a lot. The question now is, how do you get away? How can you get rid of not only what other people think, but also the anxieties and impulses that are built into your body? The answer requires a profound transformation, a worldview so incisive that it penetrates the facades of security and compliance. And it starts with going against the rules. Freedom doesn't come in a nice way. It doesn't knock on your door and ask you to come in for a better life. To be free, you have to revolt, which means shattering the unseen chains that hold you hostage. But here's the strange thing. Revolt isn't about taking over other people. It is not about fighting against society. Inside of you is where the rebellion starts. Against what you think is right. Against what you've been taught. Against the voice that says, "What will they think?" Being brutally honest with yourself is the first step toward rebelling. You need to accept that fear has had a big impact on your life. How many of the choices you made were because you wanted to? And how many were because you wanted to please someone else? How many times have you kept quiet when you had something to say? Because you were afraid of what might happen if you did. You have to admit this flaw, not to feel bad about it, but to show the chains for what they are. A prisoner who refuses to acknowledge their imprisonment will remain confined. The second act of rebellion is not caring what other people think. Marcus Aurelius, who wasn't Machiavellian, knew this reality when he said, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about what they think than what we think. This is crazy. To live as a slave in plain sight, you must put the opinions of others above your own. You need to learn how to change this inclination in order to break free. It should no longer matter if you get approval. Disapproval must not hurt anyone. Praise and insults must be equal. Nothing. How do you go about this? Exposure. Put yourself in situations where you might get disfavor on purpose and don't back down. Say what you think and deal with the quiet. Don't let people make fun of you. When someone questions you, don't explain yourself. Every time you get over a rejection that scared you, you break another link in the chain. You soon understand what Machiavelli knew. Most threats aren't real. People's condemnation can't destroy you. You can't be hurt by their mocking. You can't be erased by their rejection. The third act of rebellion is to accept your shadow. Carl Jung said that the shadow, which is the darker, hidden parts of your psyche, is not your enemy. It is your strength, your drive, your aggression. and your need for freedom are often hidden because society thinks they are dangerous. But what happens if you say no? You become weak, obedient, and easy to dominate. You need to integrate the shadow to be free. Accept that you can be in charge, that you want to have power, and that you have a will that won't bend. You become entire when you use this ability, and a complete person cannot be shattered. The fourth act of rebellion is strategic self-interest, which is what Machiavelli taught. Don't wait for things to be fair. Stop hoping for loyalty. Stop thinking that being virtuous would keep you safe. These are not real. Instead, learn how to plan your actions. Machiavelli told rulers should look merciful, faithful, humane, sincere, and pious, but to be ready to go against these values when they need to. This isn't being hypocritical. It is living. What you see affects how you think, and how you think affects how powerful you are. You don't need permission to rise if you know how to look well. But be careful. This uprising isn't about being mean. It's about being clear, to view the world as it is, not how you want it to be. To cease thinking that doing what you're told is the same as being good, or that following the rules is the same as being wise. When you live with this level of clarity, what other people think doesn't bother you as much. They can still talk, critique, and make fun of you, but their power goes away since you don't believe their judgment defines you. The fifth act of rebellion is making something new. You need to fill the space with something bigger than your own will. Once you've broken the ties of approval, Nietzsche called this the will to power. It is not about controlling others, but about controlling yourself and wanting to make your own values, instead of getting them from others. The herd follows the regulations that are given to them. Those who are free make their own rules. They tell their own story. The genuine rebellion is to live as an architect, not as a character. As an author, not as a character. Think about the people who influenced history. Galileo went against the church not because he liked being rejected, but because he thought the truth was more important than getting favor. Leonardo da Vinci worked on innovations that confused and scared people of his time, because he believed in them more than they did. Machiavelli, who was in exile and discredited, refused to give up hope. Instead, he penned The Prince, a book that was so dangerous that it outlived kings, queens, and empires. The world did not support these men, thus they were not free. They were free since they didn't need anyone else's consent anymore. So, you should consider yourself. What is more valuable? Being comfortable in chains or taking a risk to be free? The first option is what most people chose. They call it a life when they decorate their prison cells with little things that make them happy. But you can choose the second one if you want to. You can break away, deal with the pain of rejection, accept the dark side, learn how to control how you look, and make your own way. This resistance won't make everyone love you. It might even make people afraid of you, jealous of you, or not understand you. But think about it. Would you rather be revered in silence or pitied in approval? Would you want the discomfort of independence or the ease of obedience? Machiavelli's message is hard, but it's also freeing. Power isn't granted. Take power, and the first thing you need to do is take control of yourself. The revolt is the key moment. The choice is what makes the difference between people who stay in the shadows and people who shine with their own light. But just being rebellious isn't enough. Once you break free, you have to face the ultimate reality, the deepest truth of all. A truth so strong that it changes not only how you relate to other people, but also how you relate to life itself. Most people can't handle the truth. No one can stop you, break you, or hold you back, since no one was ever holding you in the first place. The bonds you were afraid of were made of lies. You were afraid of the prison you were in because you believed that other people had authority over you. And as soon as you realize this properly, the illusion is gone. What is left is scary and freeing. Machiavelli's evil knowledge shows it with ruthless accuracy. Mankind are weak, changeable, and easy to fool. They are not gods or monsters. Unless you let them, their thoughts can't shape your future. If you build your identity on their loyalty, their betrayal can break you. You can't die from their rejection unless you think it's death itself. The lesson is harsh, but it is freedom. No one can tell you how much you are worth until you give them that power. So, what is the truth? That the worst tyrant you will ever have to deal with is not another person, society, or even power itself. Your own mind is the dictator. Your fear of being judged, your need for approval, and your refusal to be alone are all examples of this. No one is stopping you. You are the one who is preventing you. Give it some thought. Who made the man who never speaks his truth because he is afraid of being made fun of? Not the crowd, but him. The lady who never goes for her dreams because she's afraid of being turned down. Who turned her down? Not her friends, but herself. Who put so many people in cages, living in quiet desperation, never daring, never risking, and never rebelling? They put themselves in a cage, and thus, when the end of their lives comes, they learn the most terrible reality of all. Their jailer was always inside. This understanding is scary since it means you can't make excuses. You can't blame your parents, teachers, enemies, or society as a whole. Yes, they made you who you are. Yes, they did try to tame you. But in the end, you were the one who took the leash. You can't hide in the comfort of being a victim anymore once you realize this. And yet, this same understanding is freedom. You have the key since it was you all along. The chains were never locked. The door was never closed. There is no freedom. People say it is. Nietzsche knew this when he said, "Become who you are." It sounds like poetry at first, and it's not very clear, but it is the toughest order to follow. To become who you are, you have to get rid of all the borrowed opinions, imposed values, and false chains of obedience. It is being naked in front of yourself, with no applause or approbation to protect you. It signifies saying, "I am mine. I have my own will. My life is my own." Carl Jung also noticed this when he said to bring the shadow into the light. This part of you that wants power, won't give in, and wants to be free is not your adversary. It is the strength you have hidden. Accept it, and you are complete. If you don't accept it, you will always be weak and divided. To live fully, you must understand that you can be strong, free, and rebellious. To deny this is to stay half a person, waiting for approval that will never come. And what about Machiavelli? He took away the illusions of morality and exposed what is left. Appearances are more important than honesty. Strength is more important than good intentions. And independence is more important than allegiance. He didn't teach him to be cruel just for the sake of being cruel. He taught him to be clear, a clarity that cuts through the cloud of compliance and shows you the truth. No one can stop you, but you. So, what does it mean to live this truth? It is to go through life without being affected by praise or criticism. To do something not because others want you to, but because you want to. To take treachery without falling apart, rejection without giving up, and condemnation without giving up. Stop asking, "Will they let me?" and start saying, "I will." But here's the paradox. When you accept this fact, you don't become mean, alone, or cut off from other people. You become more human than ever. You are living from your center for the first time, not from the winds of opinion that change all the time. You are not a mirror of other people anymore. You are yourself. And even though the world may fight you, it can't help but respect you. Even your adversaries, even those who hate you, have to admit how strong you are. This is the dark power that Machiavelli talked about. The strength that scares the weak. The person who can't be broken by rejection, who can't be silenced by criticism, and who can't be stopped by betrayal. Not because they control others, but because they have control over themselves. And the only real power there has ever been is mastery of the ego. Now you have to answer the last question. You have seen the prison, felt the chains, and tasted what it would be like to revolt. What will you do with it? Will you go back to making excuses and blaming others for your problems? Or will you accept the horrible fact that you were always free? Freedom is scary because it means you have no one to blame, no one to beg, and no one to follow. The world will keep saying, "You can't, you shouldn't, you can't." But now you know better. No one can stop you, break you, or keep you back unless you choose to. The gate is unlocked. The chains are covered in dust. The dictator is gone. There is only your will left. So, the last instruction is easy, harsh, and freeing. Rise. Take your liberty. Live without asking for permission.